Leah, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, listen, me and Amanda, we just love this, right? But we have realized in doing this that we want to start with like the 2 hardest questions right off the bat. That way, after those, you guys can just relax and we can just chill.
Love it.
Right? But these are like the 2 biggest questions. Fair enough?
Of your life.
They're big.
Let's
right?
do it.
All right. So the first question I want to ask.
Okay.
Who's the best basketball player of all time?
Michael Jordan.
I'm going to go with Michael Jordan, too, because...
Well done, guys. Well done.
We're
Could I
married.
tell you? The discernment is amazing.
Yeah.
Very good.
Wait, are you into basketball? Okay.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
My dad and my brother were
Sports
blessed with
and-
that.
Yeah,
I was not.
He's got the short gene.
Nothing bad. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
With you.
All right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the next question.
Now, hold on before you answer this question. This one's super important. And you guys know us really well.
Yeah.
So I have faith
I believe in you.
in the 2 of you.
I believe in you more.
Well. Anyways, between the 2 of us,
Yes.
Carl
Me.
Yep.
and me,
Yep.
Amanda.
who would you say is more like Sherlock Holmes?
Who's Sherlock? Who's Watson?
Ooh.
I got to remember who's who in there now.
Sherlock's the main guy, the most important
Yep,
one.
yep. Oh, yeah.
He's a really smart one.
I would say you're Sherlock and you're Watson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Nate, what do you think?
I would say the same thing.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah, I would say the
it.
same thing.
All right. Well.
Amen. Oh, so glad you guys
for,
are here.
Yeah, thanks for coming,
Oh,
guys.
right.
I'll wrap it up there.
Get out of here.
Okay, well. All right, fair enough. Here we go.
mean-
Sorry.
Yeah.
She's obviously the smart one.
Right.
That's true.
That
That's
is true.
Yeah, well done.
Discernment. Good job, guys.
Good job, honey. I'm proud of you. Well, guys, thanks. Thanks for
yeah.
answering those 2 very important questions.
Absolutely.
So really what we wanted to talk to you guys about, just your journey with Christ. Just what it's been like, kind of just tell us about it. Let us all in just on your journey, your secrets, all of that, right? And so
Cool.
I think a great place to start is just tell us about, tell us when you got saved. Tell us what that was like for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to go first?
Sure. So I got saved at a pretty young age. I was 3 years old.
Do you remember that?
So I remember kind of like the story. I don't
Sure.
remember the exact like moment, but it was something that my parents would celebrate that with us every year.
So
Really?
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Salvation Day?
Yep.
Come on, what a great
You got
idea.
gifts and everything. Yeah.
It was
gifts?
an actual party.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because, that way growing up, we remembered the day every year and it's,
Would she tell the story and everything?
Yep.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
I think that's why I have some memory of it.
Yeah.
And so what happened was my mom had just gone for a run and she was pushing me in the stroller and we had just gotten home and I just looked at her and asked her, what happens when you die?
Wow.
And, she obviously kind of explained, about heaven and hell and, how, Jesus came, died for us so we could have a relationship. And, as far as my 3-year-old, self could understand, I told her I wanted that and, we prayed and that was that.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you were 3 years old.
3 years old.
So every memory you really have in your life, you've been a Christian.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's incredible. I love that birthday idea. I wish we had done that. I
know.
feel like not
That's
as
cool.
good of parents as your parents right now.
No.
I feel like I let my kids down.
We dropped the ball big time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it
they're
definitely.
all out of the house. We can start it now.
We'll start it now
There you go.
and just
There you go.
celebrate our birthdays.
There you go.
Awesome.
That's a great idea.
That is cool. Yeah.
It definitely wasn't normal because I can remember telling my friends about it and they just kind of looked at me like, you do that?
Do you
That
still
is
do
so
it
good.
now?
My mom will usually text us.
Do you
and-
still
She
get
calls me
presents?
sometimes too.
No.
Oh.
Well, hey, let's bring those back.
I mean,
Come
yeah,
on, Mom.
seriously.
What's going on? You
I
know?
know, right?
She'll be watching this, right? Hey, Mom.
That is
November's right
really-
around the corner.
That is brilliant, man.
Yeah.
That is a really cool idea.
Yep.
That's a really good idea. I really like that. It's interesting that when kids get saved, and young, and And when my kids got saved, I was newly saved.
Yeah.
So Austin got saved, probably pretty much the same time I did. Chandler got saved a little later. And I remember one Sunday, and it didn't dawn on me at the moment, but I was coming through, and my daughter came out, and she said, I said the prayer, and I didn't know what she meant. Because I wasn't in the room, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, cool, I'm really happy for you. I had no idea what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Because I had never heard anybody, and I kind of walked away, and I didn't realize she had gotten saved for like weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible. It's probably one of my big, like if I have one moment in my Christian walk that I would love to go back and respond differently, it's that moment.
Yeah.
That's
And
the moment.
That
That moment.
I can think of a bunch.
That moment.
that's the one I would
Okay.
like to do different.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
But man, that born again birthday, what a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, good job,
cool.
Johnsons. That's amazing. I love that. Oh, that's a great story.
Yep.
Really good. How about you, Leah?
So my story is pretty similar as well. I was pretty young, and I don't necessarily remember it, but
Sure.
I definitely remember my parents telling us, and it was me and my two sisters. I think we were in the bathtub, which is kind of weird, but whatever. And my mom just watched us through the prayer, and we asked Jesus into our heart, is the way she verbalized it.
Wow.
But I think for me too. I mean, obviously, I was 3 years old. I grew up in the church, going to Sunday school, going to youth group, doing all the things. But there's a moment that I remember more truly as when I met God, and I think there's a difference. I was definitely saved, hands down. I know I was saved. I know that I knew God, but it was I had a moment when I was 16 that I actually met God.
So cool.
And it was, so that was, I was actually decided to go on a mission trip, and I was completely outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I was homeschooled, kind of a socially awkward
Amen,
high
girl.
schooler.
Amen.
Yep, that's fine. And and I just felt like I should go to Africa and went on a mission trip. And I remember I went to an orphanage one day, and I just walked out holding this precious orphaned baby out on a balcony, and I just heard God's voice for the first time.
So cool.
And just heard him say, you belong with me, and you belong here. And from that moment, it was an ignition in my spirit that I just fueled my salvation from that. I came home and
good.
read the word, and I read the word a million times,
Yeah,
but
no, I understand.
when you
Yeah.
actually have a relationship with him, and you're actually hearing his voice through scripture is completely different, and then worship was completely different. So yeah, I would say I was more 16 when I met God.
Yeah.
So
do you have a story like that too, or was it just from 3 on? It was just.
No, it wasn't just from 3.
it's perfect from
I could say I was just a
Do we
perfect
get to celebrate another
little
birthday, though?
angel.
Do we
yeah.
get, yeah.
No, I think when my relationship with God really became real was probably when I was in middle school.
Okay.
I'd never really been involved much. I went to Sunday school, and I went to church every Sunday. But in middle school is when I really started to get involved with youth group, and I joined the worship team. We call it the worship band, and that's when things started to become a little bit more real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that it was a different church.
Yeah.
So that's when I think my relationship with God became a little bit more real. However, when it comes to the Holy Spirit, there's another time where that really stands out. And funny enough, this is also in Africa.
Yeah.
We're cute.
It was 2009, and it was after my freshman year of college, so freshman, sophomore summer. We were in Mozambique going through the Iris Harvest School of Missions, and I did not grow up in a spirit-filled church.
Sure, yeah.
And was very uncomfortable around a lot of that, and did not want to go with my family on this trip.
Sure.
I'd had a great first year at college. I just wanted to have a fun summer off, but I knew I was supposed to go. Showed up. That first night, I just sat down with my dad and told him where I was at, and he's like, I know. He's like, I know you loved college, and he's like, you know what? In 3 months, you're gonna go back there. He's like, can you give God 3 months?
Amazing.
And he left. And so I'm just sitting there
Wow.
on the
Parents,
steps.
That's amazing.
I mean,
And I was
Yeah.
like, all right. I was like, God, these 3 months are yours.
Yeah.
And from that point,
So
things were
cool.
completely different.
Wow. That's
so
amazing.
what happened in those 3 months though? Like,
That's when speaking in tongues, and like when I really learned about like speaking in tongues and prophecy and healing and just all the like gifts of the spirit and just growing in like that side of my Christian walk.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of understanding there's a lot more. And I had been introduced to all of that, but that's when it became real for me.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
What a great story. So your parents, they do your like born again birthday.
Yep.
Do your parents do that?
No.
I mean,
No, it's a cool idea.
It's a good idea.
It's a cool idea.
What is that something you'll do with your kids?
I would really like to.
Yeah,
That's
we've
something
talked about
I've-
that.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
a great idea.
It's fun, yeah.
Not to keep going back to how amazing that is, but that's really a great idea. But I thought maybe this was like a homeschool thing we missed out on. And like,
I was not homeschooled.
You were not-
So I was very close to the same thing,
very
but
similar,
it was
very
not
similar.
homeschooled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys get saved young. You have these what I would call mature encounters later.
Yep.
And so kind of talk to us just about your childhood, your home. So you grew up both of you guys grew up in a Christian home,
Yeah.
which is vastly different than like my experience, right? But similar to Manny's experience in some ways, you know. And so tell me what that was like forging your relationship with God, how God's encountered you when you're in a family of faith.
Right.
So faith's just part of the family.
Yeah. You go?
Sure. So I guess, I haven't had to really think about it like this
Yeah.
before, but that was just kind of like normal life. So it was normal to go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Like I just knew Sunday mornings we went to church. I knew Wednesday nights I went to youth group. I wasn't homeschooled, but I was in a private Christian school. So you could say it was basically
Yeah.
being
so
homeschooled.
was I, so I get you.
There were
Yeah.
20 people in my class.
I graduated with 4.
What?
Nice.
4
Yeah.
people. There were 40 people in my whole school.
Wow. That's
So,
crazy.
did you do
Yeah.
paces?
Do what?
Paces?
Paces. That
No,
sounds
never.
familiar, but no,
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
I
Sorry.
don't. Yeah.
Sidetrack.
No.
I get you though. I haven't met very many people who've done that. So
No,
Yep.
no, you've met 3 other ones besides you. There was 4 of you. Really made us valedictorian to 4 people.
Wow. That's impressive.
Here's the
So-
good news. Mandy can actually say she was the prettiest girl in her school.
oh my gosh.
I apologize to those 3 people.
There were way more than 3 people in my school, but anyways.
Way more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No.
Oh.
Where were we? I lost
Yeah.
track.
He was
Yeah.
private school.
Oh, yeah.
Forging his
Yep.
own faith. in
Yeah.
his
So just
family.
like, yeah. So, you know, I mean, I grew up with being encouraged to, you know, do your like devotions or
Yeah.
quiet time, you know, those 2 words that you hear a lot. And so that was just kind of like a normal part of life, you know, Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. And, you know, so, you know, I'd read my Bible, and that was just kind of the normal thing that was encouraged.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it was anything super like intense or super deep.
Yeah.
You know, it was more of like that's just kind of what you did, you know, prayed before meals, and that was just normal life.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, we went to church every Sunday, youth group. My parents were youth leaders, youth pastors for a couple years. So it was like, this is what you did. You just went to church, and it was normal. And then also just having parents who, you know, were forerunners of the faith, and they like obviously just championed us to do so, continuing after we became adults. But yeah, my childhood was wild. It was fun. It was crazy. But yeah.
So cool. So your parents were youth leaders, youth
Yeah.
pastors for a season. And then what did your parents do?
I mean, they were also very involved. Like when I joined the worship band in middle school, it was because my mom took over leading that.
Okay,
So
very
there
cool.
were,
Wait, she led the worship band?
She did. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ew, what
Yep.
can
She has a really
do
beautiful
that?
voice. Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
She could sing, play the piano, and the guitar. Actually,
Yeah.
Wow.
something not a lot of people know that.
I
Hey,
mean,
you heard it here first.
here we go, guys.
I know.
Worship team, here we come.
Yeah. Wow. So let me get this straight. So Danette might be nearly perfect.
I
She
mean,
celebrates
right-
born again birthdays.
I agree.
She can sing
Play the piano.
and guitar.
What else?
I don't know.
She's basically amazing. Yeah.
She's basically amazing,
Yeah.
baby. I want
She
you to
does a lot.
know you're amazing as well.
Oh,
You're amazing as well.
you are. You are.
You are me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea she did all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yep.
honestly, I didn't either.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
So I mean, that's what got me into that, you know, and
And then
I
missions.
just, yep. So they went into full-time missions when I was 10 years old.
No kidding.
Um,
Where was that at?
So it was with an organization called World Hope International.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were all over the world, but my dad got started in Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Wow.
So
So did you spend time in Africa then?
yeah.
On the
so
steps for 3 months.
yeah.
Right. More time
That
than
was-
that 3 months.
Yep.
Well said, honey.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
I was I was the first person besides my dad actually to travel overseas with him.
No kidding.
It was kind of like a birthday
Which
present.
Which
actually.
one?
Just my normal
just
birthday.
Just your
yeah,
normal
just the
birthday.
normal
Yeah.
one. Okay, gotcha.
So I got to go to Sierra Leone with him, and then after that, you know, things really took off, and started traveling to Zambia quite a bit, and I spent most of the end of middle school and most of high school traveling back and forth there with my family, and you know, then I mean, since then my parents have gone all over the world, you know, with multiple different organizations. So, yep.
Amazing. And so your parents are leading youth, you're involved in youth, just kind of going through life. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Like no challenges. Everything's just perfect.
Oh yeah, everything's been great.
Well, yeah, it's been fantastic.
just a smooth
That's
what I'm
ride
saying.
the whole way.
So at what point in your journey did you, like let me ask you like this. What were some of the challenges of growing up in that environment?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where what are some are some of the challenges that come from growing up in a family that's their focus is Jesus? And are there any challenges, or is it just a perfect
Yeah,
thing?
just amazing.
That's a great question. I think for me, I know there's a lot of kids who kind of get rebellious and
Yeah.
they like walk away, and I never went through that phase.
Good.
I never felt the need to walk away from God or walk away from the things that I was raised in. So no, I mean, the challenges were probably more so like my parents were in leadership, and you know, with that comes a sort of, you know, your family's a sort of picture perfect, whatever.
Sure.
And we weren't always that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
ever.
are. We are.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
obviously.
obviously.
You got it all put
Completely.
together, right?
I mean, yes.
No issues here.
No, so yeah, that was probably played a part of it for sure, because they were definitely youth leaders for a long time and major leaders in our church growing up. And then, yeah, my parents actually adopted kids.
Yeah.
They did foster care for a while. So they had several foster kids coming through our home all from the point when I was 13 all the way until I graduated high school, pretty much. So we had several, and then they decided to adopt 6. And
Can you say it one more time?
they decided to adopt 6
So how
from
many
the
How
siblings,
many?
siblings do you
All
have total?
together.
Well, total I have 12 siblings.
Wow.
Yes, we're the typical homeschool family with 12 siblings. I know. So,
I love
This is
it.
like this is the picture
I
from
know.
this is what's on the pamphlet of homeschool right here.
Right.
really, yeah, we are. It's our face. So yeah, they decided they have. There's 3 of us that are biological children.
Sure.
When I turned 13, they decided to do foster care. They fostered on and off for a little while, and then I think the 4th placement was my brother Kenny, and they ended up adopting him.
So
and
cool.
they just fell in love with kids. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to have kids in your home and not fall in love with them.
That's
Oh,
true.
of course.
So
Yeah,
yeah. So they adopted 5 kids out of the foster care system, and then one of my siblings birth mothers reached out to my parents, and she was pregnant. So then they adopted my little sister Bella too.
So amazing.
Yep. And then there's 3 bonus kids that they call that are, my parents are just like, love everyone who enters their life.
Yeah.
But there's 3 bonus kids. So one's from a refugee from Sudan,
Yeah.
one's from the Congo, and then my cousin CJ is basically my sister as well.
So amazing.
Yeah. So there's
That's
12 of us.
amazing.
That's 12.
So you guys have a birthday every 15 minutes in your family.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we actually had to this year decide not to celebrate birthday so much.
Goodness, you
'cause it was
guys
nuts.
don't do.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
did,
Birthday,
no
I mean,
wonder
like,
your family didn't
I
do
know,
that.
there's no
It'd be
way.
like every
Oh my
day.
God, literally.
Like,
We
literally.
would never stop celebrating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of siblings.
It was crazy. It was
So
wild.
how was that for you? Like, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that think about fostering and wonder how that'll be for their
Right.
biological kids. Or what was that like for you when they started adopting kids and fostering? Like, what was that like for you?
I wouldn't say it was, I mean, they started adopting when I was 13, like I said, so I was definitely, a teenager and
Sure.
angsty, bratty teenager. So, yeah, I know, it's crazy. So I would say it was hard for me. There was a couple times definitely that I was like, are we sure you're gonna take on these funny kids? But I wouldn't, honestly, like looking back, I would not trade it for the world.
No, of
It
course
definitely
not, yeah.
prepared me for who I am today. I mean, watching my parents basically like love these kids until it broke them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't want to. Adoption is a beautiful thing, and I think it's a perfect picture of the kingdom of God. How we
Absolutely.
are as non-Jews adopted in the kingdom of
Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's a perfect depiction of Jesus. But it is. I don't want to romanticize it. It's challenging, and
It
there's
is
challenging parts of it that
Yeah.
raising kids who were traumatized from birth is
Yeah.
it's challenging.
different.
So it's different, yeah. But I definitely see them just loving so well, and I definitely know how to love fully and love, like never stop loving kids because it's how they were growing up. So yeah,
Can I tell you what a great example of it?
it was.
That was
amazing.
beautiful. Like I literally think about, we are grafted into a family.
Right.
And there's challenges when you're grafted in.
Yeah.
Right?
It doesn't
And
always go perfectly.
It doesn't always go perfect.
No.
I think I wonder how many times, Jesus looks at us and just like, oh boy, here we go.
I know.
Right? I know when I
Right.
joined the church, I'm sure there's a lot of people looking around and like, Jesus, are we sure?
Are you sure?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's a really great
Yeah.
description of it. It is a beautiful thing, right?
It is.
So from 13 now you have all these siblings. So you have 11 siblings or
Yes.
12.
There's 12 of us altogether.
So
So
there's
11
11
siblings.
siblings, and then you have
3 siblings, so there's
3
4 of
siblings.
us altogether.
Four of us all together.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. That's a lot. You guys
It's a lot of family.
That's a
That's a lot
lot
of
Yeah,
of
we
family.
have a lot of family.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
You guys literally probably have a birthday every.
We do.
Yeah.
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 It's-
Yeah. Do you take out a
crazy.
second mortgage then to get
Yeah,
birthday
pretty
gifts?
much,
How's that work?
Yeah. Had to
Yeah.
Yeah.
set boundaries when it comes to birthdays.
We do.
That's
Yeah,
a lot.
it's fun.
Yeah.
All right, well,
sure.
cool. Well, great. So,
Yeah.
so now you're going through life. You're 19. You're going through everything. So tell us, like, how you guys met.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take this one.
Okay, you got it.
I have a different
Oh my God.
excited to
idea
hear
of how
both
this
of
goes. Yeah, so I had just moved back to Michigan.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd gone to college in Virginia, stayed there working after school.
What'd
for,
you go
like,
to college for?
Aviation.
Aviation. Very cool.
Yep. So I just moved back, and it was a Holland Nights
Yeah.
that we used to do on Sunday nights in Holland. And I actually had met her dad, and I was just talking to him
Yeah.
Yeah.
when she walked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you
And
think?
he introduced me.
Yeah, I bet you
So he
yeah.
likes to take credit for introducing
does.
us. In reality,
That he does.
it was like months
He liked you
later.
too. Like he talked about you for like a month. He's like, you remember Nate Johnson?
Yeah.
did. Hey, when you got that
Yeah.
many kids,
I mean, come on.
yeah. No.
Yeah. But honestly, like when I moved back, I wasn't really looking for that.
yeah.
I had just been looking for a change, and kind of just needed to get out of where I was at and kind of pursue like a different career and stuff like that when I moved back. So that wasn't really where my
Focus
where my
Yeah.
focus was. Yeah, exactly. At first. And then I think it was like October.
So when was this?
September.
So when did you first meet
Oh,
her?
2016.
Yeah.
2016.
Yep.
It was like it was
It
February,
was like
wasn't
February
it?
of
Yeah,
2016
February or March.
we first
Yeah.
met. Yep.
Yep.
And then it was like September, October that same year.
I think it was September because it was Art Prize.
Yeah, we went to Art Prize.
Yep, in Grand Rapids.
And
Cool.
in
Well, we
my
didn't go.
in my head, this was a date.
No, it was not a
I
date.
asked her if
No,
she
it was
wanted
not
to
a
go
date.
to
Hold on.
Art Prize with a bunch of people.
Oh, it's not.
But
Hold on. I'd like to hear my brother out.
I know.
I would like to hear
That's
my
not
brother
where it
out.
ends.
It was
so
not a date. No.
she texted me like a couple days before and had to work, so she wasn't gonna be able to make it. I was like,
Okay.
hey, I've heard it's worth going more than once. Do you want to go together
Oh,
the following
smooth.
weekend?
Smooth.
And she was like, okay. So in my head,
That
we're going
is
together. It's
clearly a
just the
date.
two of us.
Just the two of us.
But
What
that's
else
a
is
date.
it?
That's a date.
No. But initially, it was with a group of people.
Yeah,
so
but
I
that didn't
committed to
happen.
it with a group of people. So how
Yeah.
would that be a
It's
date?
a
With
date.
a group of people.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
it was
I thought in my head like, oh, more people are going. Cool, we're going to go together.
Wow. So you
But-
show up and it's just
and it's
him.
just him. What are
No,
you
it
like?
was helpful because we hung out, or we went to church. I think it was a Monday night, like worship night. And he had walked up to me. He was like, "Can I pick you up?" And then I was clued in. I was like, "Wait, what? You're gonna pick me up? What? What?" And so it was helpful because I was best friends with his sister,
Yep.
and I saw her the next day, and I was like, "Does your brother think this is a date?" Like I
Oh
was
my
so
goodness.
confused.
Oh, wow.
She said
And-
no.
She said no, which was super helpful
Oh,
for me.
that's amazing.
But
Okay.
when I asked her,
Yeah.
she was like, oh, just go have a good time.
Wow.
Totally played it off.
Yeah.
But,
Nice.
but anyways, we went to our prize. We
Yeah.
walked around for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And we talked the entire time.
It was great. Yeah.
At the end of that, we were walking back to the car, and I was just like, hey, I know we just spent the last 4 hours, just the two of us, but do you want to go on an official date?
Yeah.
Oh,
Then it was a date.
okay. It's not a date.
Oh, hold on.
You
No.
don't-
It
But-
was clearly a date.
No,
My
it was
man
not a
pre-dating.
date.
If you say
Clearly a
official,
date.
Thank
if
you.
you
It
say
was clearly a
official,
date.
no,
I'm with
I'm
you
with
on
you,
this.
Leah.
No,
I'm with you,
with you
girl.
on
Thank
Get
you.
it. I'm with you.
Oh.
If you would have said, "Hey, you want to go out again?" Totally would have been on your
See?
side. But you
See?
said, "Let's go out on an official."
Well, because during the date, she had obviously said she didn't think it was a date.
But I didn't think it was a date.
But you
'Cause
told him that
he didn't
during
ask me
the
on
first
it
date.
saying, "Hey, do you want to go on a date?" He said, "Hey, do you want to hang out with some friends?"
I mean, that's how we do.
Clearly.
My-
So, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So
you
that's,
spend 4 hours at Art Prize.
Yep.
yep.
And then you
And then
ask
you
her
go on
a
your
second
first
date.
date.
And we went on a first date.
So you go on your
Exactly.
second
Okay.
date after
First
that.
date.
Second
First
date
date.
after that, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Art
so
Prize was the first.
at what so you obviously you see her at this and now you're getting ready to ask her out. What like did you start to like really like her while you're walking around Art Prize? Like how did that work for you?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because we had been at church at some event, and my mom had made a comment to me when I got home about Leah, and I don't remember exactly what was said, but that's what kind of started that thought process. I was like, I really think I like her, and I really think I want to ask her out.
He's very
So,
high contemplator.
I'm a high
He
contemplator.
thought for
So-
months.
I did, and then
Literally.
I saw her.
Because we like go to church together and see each other
Yeah.
a lot.
Yep.
We never really, we hung out a couple times outside of it because I was friends with his sister.
Yep.
But yeah, and then I think it was at Exchange and stuff. And I remember one day, like a lot of my friends when he initially moved back said, "Hey, you should date Nate." And it was like this running joke. And I was like, "I'm not dating, no.
Did you say I'm
And
not dating Nate?
I'm
Or
not
dating no. What'd you say?
dating Nate specifically. Because the first time,
Oh, wow.
I think I need to drink a coffee.
Oh, man.
yeah. Well, our first encounter, he just talked about video games. And at that point, I did not love
I
But
think
video
that's
what's
great.
wrong with that?
Nothing
He's
wrong
like,
at
I
all.
play in the
Thank
basement with
you.
my video games. And I was
That
like,
is
okay.
not what I said.
Yes, it was. That was our first conversation. Yes, it was. Anyway, so all my friends are telling me, like, you should date Nate. I'm like, no. And then my sister came home one day, and she had attended a conference, and Danette had his mom had spoke about him,
Yeah.
and somehow said, like, this is what he wants to do with his life, this is his calling or something. And she came home, and she was like, Leah, you need to date Nate.
No way.
Yeah.
Which sister was
My
it?
sister Alexis, my oldest sister.
Wow.
Yeah. And she is not a matchmaker. She is
No.
not one to come make big announcements like that. So I was like,
Wow.
okay. And I went to ask him out that that night at Exchange at our young adults group, and I was like, I'm just gonna go ask him for coffee, like no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I was totally game for it.
Let's
Yep,
hear this.
I was going to do it.
What happened?
And he was coming faithfully to Exchange, and I didn't see him for a month. He didn't show up for a month. So I was
Video
like, well, maybe
games.
that's a sign I
Got it.
shouldn't do it.
I'll just say I was not skipping Exchange for video games.
Wow, no kidding. So for a month,
Yeah.
he wasn't
For
there.
a month, I hadn't seen him, and I was like, well, maybe that's a sign. I'm not supposed to ask him out. And then he asked me out like the next week. So
So cool.
yeah,
So basically, we have Alexis to thank for
yeah,
this.
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know. She knows how to match them up. So if Alexa says this is who it should be,
It's true.
it's
Yeah.
true.
It's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's a great story. So you go on your first date to Art Prize, and then she just agreed.
Nope, it was
And then,
Vegas.
so now you go on your second
Walk
date.
in.
You're dating,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And so like, how long did you date before you got married?
Yeah.
So we
did
we
it kinda
dated
fast.
for it was like 8 months,
Yeah.
and then we were engaged for 3.
So it was under
So it was
11 months.
11
total.
months when we got married.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
11 months.
Yep.
Yep.
See, for us, that's a long time.
It was long. Yeah, it's longer than we waited. We
How
won't get
long?
into that.
Okay.
Not long.
Okay.
Yeah, about a week.
Oh. Get right on that. Go.
We've been married 21 years.
That's
now.
That's amazing.
amazing.
21 years.
Good for
but
you.
that's amazing. So 11 months. Your
Yep.
parents were happy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't say now because everyone's watching if they weren't, right? If your parents are happy,
They
your
were.
parents
They
are
were.
happy. You
Yeah.
guys
Yep.
get married.
Yep.
So tell us about what that journey was like. So now you're a married couple.
Yeah.
You've walked through this. You're now going into your own home.
Yep.
Yep.
You've been living with your parents. I'm sure you probably moved out at some point, different times, but now you're stepping into. I say this to my son who's married. Our oldest is married, and so one of the things I say to him is he's no longer, he has to create his own family.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Right, and so now he's got to create his own family of faith. He can kind of piggyback off some of my ideas, but he has to start to create that in his home.
Yep.
So tell us about that.
Sure. Do you want to take that?
No, you go. You
Okay.
got something to say.
No, I mean, I think like that's absolutely right. You are starting your own
Yeah.
family, and both of us came from families that were quite close.
Yeah.
Closer than a lot of families.
Yeah.
However,
And they're both
Leah-
local,
and
which
they're
is-
both local.
yeah.
Yep. So there's challenges when you have two families
Absolutely.
that are all super close.
Yeah.
And it's you grow up. You're at every event.
Right.
With your family, and then when like you were the first to get married,
Yeah.
I was the second.
Yep.
Not long after
was like a
my
month,
sister.
yeah.
However, she was in California, so there was
Right.
some distance there. I was the first one locally
Yeah.
to get married. So there were definitely challenges trying to navigate. Okay, how do we manage? Being involved in both of our families because we love both of our families
Right.
and we want to be a part of their lives.
Yeah.
However, it's important for us to, also do our own thing right now
Right.
because we're newly married. Like this is us.
Yeah.
It's about us now,
Yeah.
and it's about, our traditions, our family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what is life going to look like for the two of us? And, it's not easy.
No.
No.
It's going into it. We were like, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. We got two great
Thank you,
families.
Yeah.
He's being very kind.
We're
I was
gonna-
more so I had a harder time leaving
Yes.
and cleaving, I would
Yeah,
say.
sure.
I was very
Absolutely.
close. I have two sisters I'm very close with, my mother that I'm very close with.
Yeah.
So I think you more so cultivated this because you
Yeah.
were like, no, Leah, this is important. We need to make our family and we make
Yeah.
our traditions. And I definitely had some fight backs. But it was, I think in the end, it was a process.
It
I
is,
don't think
yeah.
it happens overnight. I mean,
Yep.
you don't wake up one day and you're married and everything's perfect, right?
Right.
Like it's a process. And it took me a
Right.
couple months. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like it's how it
I
works for us, We
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
Well,
It's
obviously.
just like,
So yeah, it took time, and I think it took me like probably 2 months. Well, it was also hard because we got married
2
October
months.
13th. Okay, we got married October 13th, and then we went right into the holidays.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know
yeah.
about you guys, but when it
Yeah.
comes to
Blindsided.
marriage,
Yeah.
holidays was so hard. And we didn't even, like, we had no frame of reference for it.
Yeah.
And it was like families wanting this and families wanting this, and we ended up not having any time alone.
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, we wanted Christmas or something alone. Yeah, and yeah, I wish someone had told us that was a thing, because we didn't know.
It's
But
a tough
I
one.
mean,
It
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can look at it
Yeah.
from the perspective as a parent
Right.
with their
Right, 'cause-
son leaving.
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
I mean,
Yep.
I look at the other end where I'm like, come home.
I know.
Come home. I'm the favorite, right?
Yeah, you like me more, right?
Love me more.
It's tough.
But I get it.
It is a
Yeah.
tough thing. It's one of the things when we disciple young couples that are getting married, one of the things we say is like, listen, every parent on the earth will say you have to leave to cleave,
Right.
but they don't mean them.
But, yeah.
They mean
Yeah.
the other
Right.
side. Right? And they still, they want to cultivate that relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because, you know, we think about this all the time with, you know, with holidays, especially Christmas, you know.
Yep.
You know, we'll have a Christmas someday where not all of our kids are there. And that's something you don't ever think about.
Right.
You never think about that.
I know.
And then, so it is hard when you're newly married, especially when you have two families that are super strong in the faith, that are very close knit, that walk with Jesus. They're at church with you. You know, you see them, you're doing life with them.
Yes, yeah.
And now you're not at something that they just expect you to be at, because it's a new world for them as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now you guys are married. You're learning how to cleave to each other, learning how to kind of create faith in your own home.
Right.
So talk to us more about that.
We had a very interesting story because within our first year, Nathan was actually diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So we kind of dealt with health issues, we dealt with financial issues. So our first year was very, a little bit tough.
Yeah.
So it was almost like we didn't have a choice. We just like needed God so bad in that first year. And I think because we started out from there, it's really easy to just continue our relationship
Well,
with
talk
God
to us
from
about
there.
that. So Nate, you were diagnosed with diabetes.
Yeah.
So how did that affect your world? So you get married. So your first year of marriage,
Right.
this happens. How did that affect your world?
Yeah.
Every area of our world
Yeah.
was affected.
I mean, it's, you hear like the phrase, you know, flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what happened to our life. I mean, we got married in October. This was May.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we hadn't been married a year. And, you know, at the time I was working, like at the time, my dream job. You know, I was flying for a private charter company. I was a couple weeks away from being a captain.
Wow.
And I went in for a random doctor's appointment
I
just to
made him go
establish, just to establish a relationship with our family doctor.
Yeah.
And
Were you feeling bad at all?
No.
felt great.
No issues.
So you just sent him to the doctor.
I literally, well, he hadn't gone to the doctor in like 8 years because men don't go to the doctor. So I was like, no, you're going to the doctor.
This is why they don't. I'm just saying.
Listen,
Yeah.
my blood pressure's perfect if I
But
never
if
go to
he
the
had
doctor.
went to the doctor. Anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
so I made
so-
him go. I took him I drove him to the appointment to make sure he
Wow.
went.
So you go.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah,
It was wild.
Tell us about that moment. So you're in the doctor.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yep.
about that.
so I actually left,
Yeah.
I left the doctor with him telling me, you're the healthiest guy I've seen today, or in a while.
Wow, no way.
So I'm
Yeah.
feeling good.
Yeah.
I went,
He was a little nervous going into it because he
she
hadn't
went,
been in a long time.
she went to work and I went and got a milkshake from McDonald's.
Because it was a dub. You
Yes. 3 hours later, I get a phone call saying, hey, we need to schedule your
Well, they called me
appointment.
first. So
Yeah.
my doctor actually personally called me and was like, Leah, I'm so sorry I messed up. He's actually diabetic. You need to take him to the endocrinologist tomorrow.
Yep.
And then I was driving home to tell him that he had diabetes.
So I didn't even get a phone call
And
telling
he
me that I
called
had
me.
it. I got a phone call saying, hey, I'm calling to schedule your endocrinology appointment. And I'm like, wait, what?
And then you're not a doctor. You don't know what that means.
He's like, what the heck is
Yeah.
that?
So then I sort of
Yeah.
put two and two together and I broke down. And I
Yeah.
called Leah and I was like, this just happened. And I mean, I was in shock.
Right.
But it wasn't just the shock of, okay, I've just had a life-altering diagnosis and I've got to learn to live with this chronic condition now. It's, I knew what else that diagnosis meant.
Yeah.
And that was, I would never be a commercial pilot again. Like I could not fly an airplane. And so, I mean, so many thoughts are now going through my head. It's like, I got to figure out how to live with this condition. I can't fly airplanes anymore. I've been doing this since I was 14. I went to school for this. Every career I've had basically since, college has been in aviation. We just got married. I can't fulfill my role at my job anymore. Am I going to get fired within 1 year of being married? How am I going to support our family? Like, I mean, there were so many.
Our world was
We just got.
When did you realize he wouldn't be able to fly anymore?
right when the doctor called me.
You knew right away.
Because we had talked about it before.
You had talked about diabetes before.
Yeah. Why did we talk about it? Do you remember?
I think at one point, because
You were nervous about it.
no, so some people like to snack all the time.
Yeah.
I like to, drink. Like I'd always had like a pop or an energy drink. And, I know one of that was the only symptom I had.
Yeah.
And I
He's
knew
really
one of the
thirsty.
symptoms of, being diabetic is you drank a lot of fluids.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
I did not know that.
And I mean, it was like a ridiculous amount. I just thought that was normal. I was
constantly
like,
thirsty.
Some people like to snack, some people like to drink. I just thought that was normal.
That's what I think.
So I was more concerned, I think, about being unhealthy, and I thought maybe it'd be type 2 if I had it.
Sure.
I mean, if you look at me, obviously I'm not type 2, but
Right, yeah. So what would someone that has type 2 look like, similar to me?
you're no. Bigger.
No.
Yeah. So it had come up, and I had a friend in college who wanted to learn how to fly, and he was type 1. So I just, there was always that thought, but I was like, there's no way. So
right away, you're coming home.
Yep.
What did that do for your world?
Definitely rocked it. Yeah, I would say I was driving home and I called my mom freaking out because I was like, how am I supposed to tell my husband that he's sick and that can never fly again? And I know that hearing it from the endocrinologist is probably horrible, but I appreciate it because I didn't have to go home and tell him.
Yeah.
Because that sounded horrible to me. But got home and we're like, let's just, we'll schedule the appointment and let's just like not freak out, not do anything. And he was a pilot at the time, and he was flying the next day. He had a I forget where he went, but he was flying somewhere. And so I scheduled the appointment for like later in the afternoon. And I went shopping with my mom, and I'm out shopping, and he's on his flight. And halfway through, the endocrinologist calls me, and he's like, "Where's your husband?" He's like, "You need to come in right now." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to come in this afternoon because he's on a flight right now." And he's like, I can hear him in the background with the receptionist on the phone. He's like, "He should not be flying." And I was like, "Why? He's never had any symptoms. He's fine." And
I'm gonna step in and just give a little context. I was a co-pilot. So
Sure.
I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't breaking, any laws by doing this. At this point, it's
he wasn't grounded.
you're
too, either.
probably type 1. You need to go see the endo to find out and be diagnosed, and so
Yeah.
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 Yep. So we went to the doctor that day, and he basically sat him down and was like, you're grounded. Like, you can't fly anymore.
Wow.
So,
It was very blunt.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I actually very much appreciated. I have a great doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, he sat me down. He didn't beat around the bush at all.
no,
It was,
great.
this is where you're at. He looked me in the eye. He's like, you have type 1 diabetes. You won't be a commercial pilot again. Your life is going to be very different. But I'm going to help you get through this.
Wow.
And you are going to live a normal life.
Yeah.
Come to find out, he was friends with my dad.
Of course.
He was on the board
Dad?
for the missions organization.
No way.
That my dad is now the president of.
Yeah.
Crazy God story.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's cool.
that stuff does not happen.
Right.
Like, so that was pretty neat to find out. But that definitely set us on a journey for sure. Life changed quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I mean, I went through every range of emotion there is. And she walked with me every step of the way. And
Yeah, it was great.
I would not, I know it was not easy for her.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I would not have gotten through it if it was not for her becoming incredibly selfless during that time. Because looking back now, it was all about me for quite a while,
Yeah.
6 months to a year.
Yeah.
It was literally
Yeah.
every day was about me, planning out meals, planning out everything.
Yeah.
Every aspect of life had to be planned now.
Yeah.
And would not have gotten through it without
Amazing.
her. So
So do you find now then that your faith has shifted? How has that shifted for you guys with this?
The verse that God uses all things for good
Yeah.
for those who love him. I look at who Nathan was when he was first diagnosed and who he is today. It's a completely different person.
Completely different guy.
I think when your worst nightmare happens and you're walking through it, it's like, I don't know, life becomes a lot easier, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
And I would say it took probably 4 months of him walking through grief, and that's what I walked him through.
Yeah.
And he was angry, he was sad, he was crying every day. He had he's a pretty emotional guy. and
Yeah.
It was a lot to handle for me because I'm not as emotional, I would
Less
say.
emotional.
Yeah, less emotional. That's a good way to say it. Yep, less emotional. And I definitely, it was a challenge, but walking through it now, and I would say probably in October, he came out of it. And he got to acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And I think once he got to acceptance, a lot of he struggled, he struggled with anxiety and things before
Sure,
that.
yeah.
And it was gone.
Yeah.
God used this to just remove that from his life.
So good.
And he became way more confident. He became way more sure of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely different. Your personality completely changed.
yeah, it was in a lot of areas. It was just a 180.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which was
you're
crazy.
incredibly different from when
Yeah.
I first met
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Watching you come into identity with Christ and security in yourself, right? When
Right.
I first met you, you were kind of going through stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that. How do you go from this moment that creates insecurity in you to where you're at today? How did you do it?
yeah. I think it was just all the little moments during that process. I mean, coming home from my first appointment, and my parents came over that night and prayed for me, and this was a big moment, honestly, when I mentioned in passing my doctor's name, and my dad goes, "Wait, what?" And when I told him the name, he's like, "No way." He's like, "He's on the board of the organization I'm now the president of."
Wow.
And then being able to go to the next doctor's appointment with my dad and seeing that connection, it was that encouragement
Yeah.
on the first day of God is still there,
Yeah.
and he's still working,
Yeah.
because my doctor, out of all the doctors at Spectrum Hospital that I could have had, I had this guy who knows my dad, who's a
Yeah.
believer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as my doctor. And I mean, it changed a lot. He's been in my corner, on my side, fighting for me as I go through waivers to get a pilot's license again. He's, it's been really cool to see that. That moment was encouraging.
Yeah.
And was kind of okay, God's still here. I still walked through everything through that process, but there were multiple times where we just saw God come through.
Yeah.
Excuse me, at the last minute, or just lots of just encouraging moments, where it was okay, God just showed up.
Yeah.
And I love getting to share this story, just because, a lot of people, I don't look back on that, it's been, 2 years, 3 years now.
Yeah.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look back on that now and look at it as this was my darkest hour, this was the worst. I don't look back and see negative
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
anymore. I look back and I see where God stepped in, and I see the person that I was, the insecure, super emotional person that I was, and I see where I'm at now, and it's all walking through that, and just just having to take one day at a time and look for God each day.
Yeah.
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 And just going through that together.
Yeah.
We were, I mean, we're blessed with 2 great families, and they came around us, supported us 100%.
Oh yeah.
You know, but having to walk through something like that within 9 months of being married,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
it was
Yeah.
make it or break it.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It really was.
Yep.
You just kind of saw the worst of each other right away. So
Wow.
it's great.
Yeah.
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 So what was it like for you? So how do you, here you are, your husband who's, we understand, like he's gonna spiritually lead the house, and we're gonna go for the things of God, and we got this plan, and here's A, B, and C of what we're gonna do.
Right.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you? How did you come alongside him, and how did you keep this family of faith? How did you help support keeping this family of faith together?
Yeah. I would say when he broke down, I would just start praying because
Yeah.
there's nothing else you can do. I wouldn't say that I had the perfect words throughout that
Sure, of course.
process. I definitely didn't. I just, every day I woke up and I was like, okay. And I just helped alleviate and anticipate any of his needs. That's really where I was at. I was like, make the meals, make sure that he had his carbs, enough for his insulin intake. And, that became like my focus was
Right.
that summer, that initial summer when you're going through it. And then like I'd go to work, come home, and I just kind of almost had to prepare myself walking in the door like he's going to be upset, or maybe he's gonna get mad tonight, or maybe he's gonna be happy like we just never know what you're gonna walk into.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a little stressful, I would say, for me walking in, just like not knowing what it's gonna be like that night, right? And when you're walking through grief, it's like the different phases is like sadness, anger, all the things, right?
Yep.
And it was a lot to handle,
Yeah.
and it was so it was intense. I would say. After 3 months, I definitely needed a break, and I took a break. I actually left for the weekend with my sisters.
Yeah.
And I told him I needed a break, like I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And you were really understanding about that weekend, which was great. And it was funny, when I was there, I went up to the UP with my sisters for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And left in a mess, just like, okay, I just need to take a break. I just need a minute. I need a minute to myself. I need to be about me for a minute, right? And I remember day 2, and I went on a hike, and I'm walking, and I was like, I wish Nathan was here. That's how you know you love your husband. So yeah, and then through the whole thing, we just prayed together every single day because there was nothing else you could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then come October, we went away for our anniversary, and it was almost like it was like a fresh breath of air, right? You walked up like, okay, like we're gonna be okay. We can handle this, right?
You are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
good.
it just went up from there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then did you find like a new career? Like where are you at today?
Yeah. So, I didn't get fired from my job.
Yeah, it was amazing.
The company I was working for was really great at the
They were
time.
great,
They just basically sat down with me, and they were like, hey, we're not going to kick you to the curb.
Wow.
We're going to find somewhere for you to work right now. And I ended up, doing something like in the, more of like the business side of aviation. And for a while, I really enjoyed that. And then some things changed, and it was a good transitional job while I kind of decided, what direction do I want to go with my life? Like, what career do I want to go after? And this is, a long story, very short, but, I basically kind of figured out the career I wanted to go into, which was IT.
Yeah.
And got hired in to just a really awesome company, that
So cool.
super passionate about culture.
So cool.
And just, passionate about making the workplace a fun environment,
Yeah.
because, when employees are happy, they do a good job,
It's true.
and they like what they
Yeah.
do, and they'll work
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what this place is like.
Yeah.
So
So
good.
good.
Yeah.
People love what they do, they work hard, and they have a good time. And it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just been really fun to dive into a new career, and one that I know that, I'll really enjoy, and one that, is, has so many different fascinating,
Sure. Yeah.
branches that you can go off into. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. So now you're in this part of your life. So here we are.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have just kind of a couple more questions. We won't keep you too much
Sure.
longer. But you're at this part of your life. So like now you have your career, you have your career. You guys are kind of heading down this goal. You've gotten through this huge,
life
huge
event.
event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mandy are very careful. We always call things speed bumps, right?
Right.
It might feel like the Grand Canyon at the moment,
Right.
but technically it's just a bump. You're gonna be
Right.
okay.
Yep.
But it
Exactly.
feels like the Grand Canyon. When you
Right.
go through this moment, your faith is stronger,
Yep.
right? Your relationship is better. You've matured a ton through this. So tell me, inside of church life or inside of the kingdom, like what are you passionate about today?
I can start. Yeah. So I
Okay.
think one of the big things for both of us is community.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced community like I have at the point.
Yeah.
I went through a long period of time where I did not have community and never want to be in a place like that again.
No.
You know, it was not a great time. And when I moved back and I joined the Point, I knew that this is what it's supposed to be like, and I just wanted to be all in.
Yeah.
And I know it was very similar for her, and we're super passionate about community and seeing that grown because we know how important it is to have community.
Yeah.
You know, the things that we've walked through, like we needed community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, that's like our definitely main focus is just creating authentic friendships and being in a church that cultivates that is amazing. And then we also feel very called to pastoring.
Yeah.
We want to see people. We've obviously went through the fire and went through different things, and I think now we can look at people and help them walk through the fire and walk through these things. And yeah, pastoring people from like unhealth to health is something we're really passionate about as well. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I can remember like it was like really late at night, and I think we were driving home from her parents' house, and you know, it was probably a few months after the diagnosis, and we were just kind of like, man, this has been a pretty intense first 12 months of marriage. And
Just a little.
just being like, one day
Yeah.
we're gonna be able to help some people
Yeah.
because we've gone through this.
Yeah.
And I can just remember having that conversation and being like, one day
Yeah.
we're gonna be able to help people because of what we've walked through.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of also changed the, perspective when you're going through that, because
Does,
it's like,
yeah.
we can get through this,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be able to use this one day.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
One of the things that me and Mandy talk about often when we sit down and talk to people is those moments of where your life feels like it's broken and God heals it.
Mm-hmm.
It really, what it does, it turns it into a key
Yeah.
to unlock something for somebody else.
Right.
And
That's
that's why I think it's
beautiful.
why the Bible says that God turns our weakness, when he's in our weakness, it becomes our strength.
Right.
Because it's the thing that helps us transform a life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the thing that lets us play a part. And watching your guys' testimony, getting to be friends with you, getting to be part of your life, getting to live in this community that we get to live in together. There's so many times you guys have strengthened me and Mandy, and we've been so impressed by so many different aspects of what you guys have gone through and walked through. And it's been a true blessing to get to know you guys even better, and even hearing some of your stories. It's been just really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you guys, because the strength that it must have taken, right? I mean, we went through things. but,
Sure. Yeah.
you guys are just faithful, and it's such a huge blessing. But I want to just ask you guys one question. So right now in your life, you've gone through all of this stuff, and we're here in this moment. And you guys said you're passionate about community and pastoring, right?
Mm.
So want you guys to think, like, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
what would you tell yourself now to do to get that? Because those moments when you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
What would you tell yourself now
Right.
to accomplish that?
Ooh.
I can start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I ask?
I can start.
I
I got it.
I think like a big thing for me is don't wait. Just go after it.
Yeah.
Don't growing up and in a lot of what I've done, I've always had the tendency to just kind of wait for somebody to be like, hey, why don't you come help me with this, or hey, this might be a good spot for you to be in. But to really just dive in, even if I'm not entirely sure of myself in the situation, to just go after it.
That's good.
It's really good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something I'm learning right now. And
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. And for me, probably be intentional.
So good.
I think it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and
Yeah.
all the things that you don't actually pursue the things of God or pursue like what you feel called to.
Yeah.
So actually be intentional to make sure you're going towards those things.
yeah.
So,
job.
yeah.
I think that's really good advice.
How about you guys?
You know, I think it's interesting you ask that because it's actually something we talk about all the time.
Nice.
And I want to learn. 53-year-old Karl needs to tell 42-year-old Karl to be more patient. Be more patient. And when I think of my journey and what God's doing in me and what He's showing me in unpackaging, sometimes I think I feel this. I want to hurry up and do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to get started. I want to go for this.
Right.
And I think the one thing that I think I would tell myself is like, slow down. You're going to do it all.
Right.
Right. So kind of a little bit different. Like you guys are telling yourself, go for it.
Yeah.
And
right.
what I'm telling myself is just slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you have time and to allow to give more room for leave more margin in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
good.
what I would tell myself, especially now, we have a son recently married and I look back at my life. And so this is why Mandy asked this question, and why she came up, because it's something we talk about all the time, because what would I have told 32-year-old Karl? Right? And I would have told him probably the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey man, slow down a little bit. It's gonna work out.
All right.
Don't worry about money so much. Right? Don't worry about this or
Yeah.
that, Like slow down. Enjoy the space you're in right now. Like enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so when I think of 52-year-old Karl, I think that's what he would have to tell still 10 years
Same
later,
thing.
42-year-old Karl.
That takes a little bit.
How about you?
I think I would tell myself,
Make out with Karl more?
no. I'm kidding.
No.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I think I would tell myself, well, I don't know if I tell myself anything, but I see a picture of, do you know when you're handing the baton off to the next generation?
Yeah.
I think for me, I would have started that sooner
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is what I would say to myself. Because, a lot of times it's about you, and it totally is 100%. But we're getting older
Yeah.
a little bit.
I'm looking at much faster than she is, though.
It's true. No, but there's a time where it's like, okay, like I look at my kids
Yeah.
and where they're at now, and this is their time. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would say enjoy that moment, right?
Right.
And also slow down, right?
Yeah.
Because we do have a lot of life left.
Yeah.
It's not over.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
looks different
Yeah.
Yeah.
now.
That's really good.
That's good.
That is
And put the soda down.
Put the soda down.
Put the soda down.
Someone the other day said, asked something like, what would you say to yourself when you were a kid? And I said, you're not as fat as you think you are. Eat more ice cream. At
okay.
37, you start to get fat. Eat less ice cream.
Right.
Not true. Not true.
Right.
Anyway.
But I think these are just important questions we always have to ask ourselves, just
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we know internally what God's calling us to and creating us to, and it is always about obedience.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys, be obedient with the things God has for you, and you're doing a great job. We love you, and so appreciate you guys
Yeah,
doing this.
thank
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Yeah.